Hi everyone, my name is Andrea Gomez and it's a pleasure to be here at the virtual conference on chemistry and its applications 2025. Today I will be presenting our work titled Evaluation of Strategies for Conventional Water Quality Monitoring in Karst Environments, Application in the Yucatan Peninsula. This research is a collaborative effort, and I'd like to acknowledge my co-authors, Maria Judith Rios Lugo, Rogelio Mondragon Bonilla, and Hector Hernandez Mendoza. Our affiliations are listed on the slide for your reference. To begin, let's delve into why the unique freshwater systems we've studied, the cenotes, are so crucial, yet inherently vulnerable. As just mentioned, cenotes are truly critical but vulnerable freshwater sources. Firstly, they are a vital resource. Karstic aquifers like those in the Yucatan Peninsula serve as primary freshwater sources for both human consumption and crucial local ecosystems. Their importance simply cannot be overstated. However, they come with a high vulnerability. Due to their inherent high connectivity and limited natural filtration capacity, these systems are exceptionally susceptible to contamination from surface activities. Cenotes act as direct conduits. They literally link surface activities directly to the groundwater below, emphasizing the complex hydrogeological interplay between the two. This direct connection leads to a significant monitoring challenge. Traditional monitoring approaches often oversimplify the inherent variability within these systems, particularly regarding vertical stratification, differences between shallow and deep waters, highlighting a clear need for more refined approaches. Understanding these fundamental challenges brings us to the core of our proposal. Why do we need a new, adaptive monitoring strategy for these precious resources? Building on the challenges we just discussed, let's explore why a new monitoring strategy is essential for these complex environments. As you can see on the left side of the diagram, traditional monitoring typically focuses on a single depth and a limited number of sites. This approach often overlooks critical vertical and spatial variability within the aquifer. This oversight can have significant consequences. It can lead to missing key differences between surface and bottom water layers, as well as hidden patterns of contamination and important geochemical processes that are vital for proper management. To address these limitations, we propose a geochemically adaptive monitoring framework. Our strategy utilizes physicochemical information, which you'll see shortly, to group cenotes with similar hydrochemical behavior. This helps us understand where the water behaves similarly and where it differs. The beauty of this approach, shown on the right side of the diagram, is that within these identified homogeneous groups, monitoring efforts can be significantly optimized. This means we can sample primarily at shallow depths. This ensures data representativeness without compromising quality while significantly reducing costs and effort. Ultimately, this adaptive approach aims to provide a practical and field-based framework for improved water resource management in karst environments. Before diving into the specifics of how we develop this framework, let's clearly outline the objectives that guided our entire research. With that background on our proposed adaptive strategy, let's now look at the specific objectives that guided our research. Our first objective was to evaluate key hydrochemical parameters such as pH, electrical conductivity, and nitrates to comprehensively characterize the water quality of the cenotes. Secondly, we aimed to compare physicochemical characteristics between surface and deep water samples. This was crucial to rigorously assess vertical variability within each cenote, which is a common challenge in these systems. A third objective was to identify hydrochemically homogeneous zones and detect underlying geochemical patterns. We achieved this through robust statistical analysis, including hierarchical clustering. And finally, based on all these findings, our ultimate goal was to propose a geochemically adaptive monitoring strategy. This strategy focuses on optimizing sampling effort by leveraging the identified zones with minimal surface deep differences, allowing for more efficient resource allocation. Ultimately, as stated on the slide, our objective is to inform better monitoring and management of these vital freshwater resources. To provide context for our work, let's briefly describe our study area, the Yucatan Peninsula cenotes. First of all, let's turn our attention to our study area, the Yucatan Peninsula cenotes. The Yucatan Peninsula is a unique and fascinating region. Geographically, our study spans approximately 60,000 square kilometers across the northern Yucatan and western Quintana Roo states in Mexico. In terms of geology, the peninsula is primarily composed of tabular carbonate and evaporite rocks. This geological composition is fundamental to understanding its hydrochemical processes. Regarding hydrogeology, a key feature of this region is a freshwater lens that overlies denser saline water, creating a dynamic interface. This interface can extend significantly inland, reaching up to 90 to 100 kilometers from the coast. The peninsula is also home to an impressive number of cenotes, over 10,000 of them. These cenotes are not just geological curiosities, they serve as critical recharge features for the aquifer and support incredibly unique aquatic ecosystems. Briefly on climate, the region experiences a range from humid tropical, classified as AMF, to warm subhumid, or AW, according to the Köppen classification. And finally, the soils are predominantly leptosols, vertisols, and luvisols, with localized caliche deposits that also influence the interaction between surface water and the aquifer. This complex and vital environment provides the detailed backdrop for our sampling and analytical methodology. Having set the stage with the study area and our objectives, let's now look at our methodology and sampling strategy. We developed an adaptive scheme specifically for comprehensive vertical and spatial water quality characterization, which is crucial in complex karstic systems like the Yucatan. For our sites and timing, we sampled a total of 60 cenotes between May and July of 2021. Regarding depths, samples were collected from two distinct levels: the epikarstic zone, which is the shallow layer up to 2 meters deep, and also from deeper groundwater levels ranging from 3 to 20 meters. This allowed us to assess that vertical variability we discussed earlier. Moving on to the parameters and analytical methods used. For sample collection, we used acid-cleaned polyethylene bottles, and samples were immediately acidified with 2% nitric acid to preserve them. We measured a range of in situ and lab parameters including pH, electrical conductivity, total dissolved solids, and major ions such as sulfate, bicarbonate, carbonate, chloride, and nitrate. All these parameters were measured using standard methods: spectrophotometry, titration, and calibrated multi-parameter probes, all strictly following Mexican Standard Protocols, or NMX. To ensure the robustness of our data, we employed a specific dual-depth sampling technique designed to capture key system dynamics. To truly capture the dynamics of these systems, our sampling strategy was designed to incorporate dual-depth sampling. Regarding our sampling technique, we employed a stratified sampling by depth. This means water samples were collected from both the surface, or S layer, and the deep, or P layer, allowing us to assess vertical differences. To ensure sample integrity, all sampling was performed using specialized manual bottle devices equipped with seals. This design minimized potential contamination during extraction from different depths. Furthermore, to validate the effective sampling depth and ensure accuracy, we utilized multi-parameter probes that were equipped with pressure sensors. Crucially, for deeper cenotes, we prioritized obtaining full vertical profiles before collecting discrete samples. This approach was essential to identify any potential stratification patterns directly in the field, guiding our subsequent sampling decisions. This rigorous methodology for sampling allowed us to collect a comprehensive dataset. Let's detail the full range of parameters analyzed and how our sampling frequency ensured robust data. To get a complete picture of the cenote water quality, we analyzed a comprehensive set of parameters. Our in situ measurements, taken directly in the field, included pH, electrical conductivity, total dissolved solids, temperature, and crucially, dissolved oxygen. For laboratory analysis, we focused on major cations like calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium, as well as major anions such as chloride, sulfate, bicarbonate, and nitrate. We also determined total hardness and the sodium adsorption ratio, or SAR. Beyond the standard parameters, we also performed analysis for trace elements, including aluminum, iron, manganese, lead, and uranium. These were analyzed using advanced inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometry, or ICP-MS, to ensure high sensitivity and accuracy. It's also important to mention that every sample collected was rigorously georeferenced using GPS and preserved following strict laboratory protocols, ensuring the reliability of our data. Regarding frequency, our study wasn't a one-time snapshot. We conducted 3 measurement campaigns throughout a hydrological year. This was essential to capture potential seasonal variations, particularly between the dry and rainy seasons. And finally, the primary tools utilized for our data collection included multi-parameter probes, various field kits, and GPS devices. This extensive dataset then fed into our statistical analysis, leading us to our first set of key results on hydrochemical patterns and cluster analysis. Now let's dive into our results on hydrochemical patterns and cluster analysis. This slide summarizes the core statistical findings. For PCA dimensionality, we applied principal component analysis to identify underlying patterns and effectively reduce a complex dataset. As you can see, the first two principal components, PC1 and PC2, together explain 57.14% of the total variance. Individually, PC1 accounts for 37.22% and PC2 for 19.92% of the variance. Through this PCA, the biplot clearly revealed three distinct hydrochemical groupings among our cenote samples. To formally identify these groups, we then performed a k-means analysis. This statistical method successfully classified our samples into three distinct clusters: Cluster 1, represented in gray, Cluster 2, in red, and Cluster 3, in blue. With these clusters identified, let's now delve deeper into their hydrochemical characteristics based on our PCA results, starting with the main drivers of variability. Building on the cluster identification, this slide delves into the hydrochemical characterization of each cluster, integrating our PCA results. First, let's look at the PCA dimensionality reduction to understand the main drivers of variability. PC1, or principal component 1, explains 37.22% of the variance. As seen on the biplot, it's primarily driven by variables like electrical conductivity, chloride, sodium, bicarbonate, hardness, and calcium. This tells us that PC1 is strongly related to the total mineralization, salinity, and hardness of the water. Higher values on PC1 indicate more mineralized, saline, or hard waters. PC2, or principal component 2, explains 19.22% of the variance. This component is positively influenced by bicarbonate and, to a lesser extent, negatively by pH. Nitrate also shows a slight influence along this axis. Now let's start detailing our hydrochemical cluster profiles as identified by the k-means analysis. We'll begin with Cluster 1, depicted in gray on our maps. We characterize this as saline and highly mineralized waters. On the PCA biplot, samples from Cluster 1 are typically located in the upper right quadrant. Their key characteristics are consistently associated with the highest values of electrical conductivity, chloride, sodium, and bicarbonate. The interpretation for this cluster suggests waters highly influenced by pronounced saline intrusion or intense interaction with geological formations, such as evaporite deposits that release these elevated salt concentrations. Notably, this cluster includes both surface and deep samples from cenote 8, indicating vertical homogeneity there, but also cenote 9's surface sample, where its deep counterpart belongs to a different cluster. Moving forward, let's now examine the specific characteristics of Cluster 2 and Cluster 3. Continuing our hydrochemical characterization, let's look at Cluster 2, represented by the red points on our biplot. We've identified these as hard and carbonate-dominated waters. On the PCA biplot, samples from this cluster are found in the lower right quadrant. Their key characteristics include relatively high levels of hardness and calcium, coupled with somewhat lower pH values. The interpretation for Cluster 2 suggests waters with significant carbonate dissolution, leading to that calcium-driven hardness. These conditions might also indicate slightly more acidic environments, possibly pointing to strong water-rock interaction zones or even localized anthropogenic influences that can modify pH or mobilize calcium. Now moving to Cluster 3, shown in blue on the biplot and maps. This cluster represents the diluted and fresh background waters of the aquifer. Its PCA position is characterized by a dense grouping in the left half of the biplot, indicating generally low PC1 values. The key characteristics for Cluster 3 are lower values across a broad range of parameters: electrical conductivity, chloride, sodium, calcium, hardness, and bicarbonate. Importantly, nitrate also tends to fall within this region on the biplot. Our interpretation is that this cluster represents the most diluted and least mineralized freshwater conditions, likely reflecting the dominant, more pristine groundwater found across much of the karstic aquifer. However, The presence of nitrate within this region also suggests a potential low-level anthropogenic influence, perhaps from agricultural activities, on what is otherwise a freshwater background. With these distinct hydrochemical profiles in mind, let's now connect them to their spatial distribution and discuss the broader implications for contamination and the utility of our proposed methodology. Now, let's bring together our hydrochemical findings with their spatial patterns and applied significance. This is where our methodology truly shows its value. First, regarding geochemical zoning and lithological influence. As you can see on the maps, Cluster 3, representing the diluted freshwater, is predominantly found in the limestone coquina and limestone zones, which are the yellow-colored areas on our base map. This is perfectly consistent with the highly permeable karstic limestones that define these regions and their less mineralized hydrochemical signature. In contrast, Cluster 1, our saline cluster, and Cluster 2, our hard carbonate-rich cluster, show a stronger presence in the limestone marl, coquina caliza, and limestone evaporites zones, represented by the purple and pink areas. This crucial observation suggests that these distinct lithologies, particularly the presence of evaporites, strongly foster the specific hydrochemical conditions we observe, such as the high salinity characteristic of Cluster 1. Moving to the implications for contamination assessment, for saline intrusion, Cluster 1 stands out. With its high chloride sodium and electrical conductivity concentrations, Cluster 1 is a strong candidate for waters clearly influenced by saline intrusion. Its specific geographical allocation, even if not exclusively coastal, is crucial for freshwater management as it directly indicates areas where this saline influence is pronounced, potentially affecting drinking water sources. Regarding anthropogenic contamination, the presence of nitrate in the region of Cluster 3 in the biplot and its potential association with Cluster 2, if it shows higher nitrates, indicates a potential anthropogenic pressure. If the cenotes within Cluster 2, which are dispersed yet tending towards certain areas, exhibit higher nitrate levels, these would represent clear hotspots for contamination stemming from human activities, such as agriculture or wastewater discharge. This comprehensive spatial understanding directly informs the utility of our proposed methodology and brings us to our key conclusions regarding adaptive monitoring. We now arrive at our conclusions and the core implications for adaptive monitoring. A primary and significant finding is the dominant vertical homogeneity observed across our study sites. Our analysis reveals that a remarkable 32 out of 33 cenotes exhibit hydrochemical homogeneity across their vertical profile. This means that surface S and deep P samples were consistently assigned to the same hydrochemical cluster. This is crucial because it indicates that, for the vast majority of cenotes, surface waters are highly representative of deeper hydrochemical conditions. This finding directly informs our concept of targeted monitoring based on variability. For optimization, this widespread vertical homogeneity strongly supports the optimization of sampling efforts in most cenotes. It allows for a reduced depth sampling frequency or even single depth surface sampling without compromising data integrity or the critical information needed for management. However, for critical zones, the approach is different. Conversely, in the few cases where we did observe vertical heterogeneity, such as Cenote 9, or in those hydrochemically distinct zones defined by Cluster 1 and Cluster 2, multi-depth and more targeted monitoring remains absolutely crucial. This is necessary to capture specific geochemical dynamics, such as saline intrusion or localized anthropogenic impacts, that wouldn't be evident otherwise. Finally, let's summarize the overarching utility of this methodology for water resource management and its impact on decision-making. To conclude our presentation, let's summarize the broader implications of our work, particularly concerning water resource management. Our methodology effectively provides geochemical zoning for resource management. Through PCA and K-means clustering, we successfully identified 3 distinct hydrochemical zones. These zones are characterized by varying levels of mineralization, salinity, and importantly, potential anthropogenic influence. For instance, we saw Cluster 1 representing saline waters, while Cluster 3 denotes more freshwater or diluted conditions. The spatial distribution of these clusters across the Yucatan Peninsula, as shown in our maps, provides a robust framework for differentiated water resource management strategies. This means we can apply specific management actions tailored to the unique hydrochemical characteristics of each zone. Finally, this geochemically adaptive monitoring framework offers a truly practical and data-driven approach to enhance decision-making. It significantly improves efficiency in monitoring these vital freshwater resources, thereby ensuring their sustainable management within the complex and vulnerable karstic environment of the Yucatan Peninsula. Thank you for your attention. And finally, here are the references that were used throughout this research. Thank you very much for your attention.